Okay, Anthony, can I borrow you again? Thank you very much. Thank you once again. Could I ask you to grab a piece of paper, A4 paper, and anyone who has a piece of A4 paper can... A couple of those, actually, will be great.
Couple of those?
Yeah, a couple of A4 sheets.
Okay.
Thank you very much. Excellent. Thank you. So what I'd like to do is, if you take a pen, and I'd like you to write down these steps on your paper. Yeah.
Okay, so each step is in one
Yeah,
paper.
so fold the paper in half, tear it in half, so you can be economical with the paper. Fantastic. And so all Anthony is going to do now is he's going to write down each one of these in the middle of the piece of paper he's got. So each piece of paper becomes that label. Okay. Superb. So networking. Excellent. And then I don't know how you want to chunk this, so if it's personal development, including that, whichever label you want to put on there. That makes sense for you.
It doesn't matter, I'm just gonna put on the paper. So. Yeah.
Cool. Next. Setting up the business. Business side. Unconscious competence. It's easy for me to say.
So you're writing all the steps on each paper?
So setting up the business side.
Oh, one step on each paper.
One step on each paper. It may just seem like he's
there was
writing
a
everything.
lot on one page.
With language.
Just need to check if I'm spelling right.
Mm-hmm. So that's all you'll do. Having chunked your steps, you're now writing the label of each step on a sheet of paper. And then when you rule the world, when I rule the world, every day will be the same, which is, of course, your ultimate goal in this particular goal. So success or successful professional coach. Professional coach. Excellent. Fantastic. Thank you very much. What I'd like you to do is then I'd like you to lay these particular steps out on the floor with your achieved goal at one end, and then the steps coming back to where we are at the present. And give yourself some space equally between them, because you're going to walk through that in a minute. There we go.
Yeah. I see. Because actually those are, this is approaches. Anyway. This is good.
Yeah, we're going to look at that a second, and we'll ask questions like that.
Okay, let it be this way.
Yeah? Great. Fantastic, thank you. So what I'd like you to do now is just, as you are, just taking a step off that, somewhere where you can have an overview. So rather than be at the end, if you can find somewhere, roughly speaking, sorry, James, roughly speaking, somewhere in the middle, if you take a meta position, a greater position, an outside position, a position that encompasses everything, and just look through those, first of all, and for yourself, just check that those chunks make sense and that they're in an order for you that makes sense in terms of achieving this goal.
Yeah.
Yeah?
Yeah, I think they're right. But yeah, just something there is like this personal development, because I know it's a process, it's a big thing. Just
Yeah.
yeah.
I mean, it could be, and you tell me, because you've written them out like this, that is something very specific, the mastermind group, which is almost like a mini project in itself, perhaps. And that can be much more general in terms of,
Yeah.
I mean, it really is what it means to you.
Yeah, it's actually in every area. I mean, is
Yeah. So for now, happy with that?
yes.
Okay, great. So what I'd like you to do is just, again, before you walk through it, just from here, where you are is great, and then just looking at each one of those, one by one, and just asking yourself, what are the potential obstacles in that section first, and then ask yourself the same question for each of the others. What are the potential obstacles? If there are any.
Yeah, the potential obstacles are time.
Mm-hmm.
Won't be enough time. Then actually staying in contact, committed.
Mm-hmm. To time, commitment.
Yeah, commitment.
Uh-huh. Anything else there while we're still there?
That's it.
So time and
In
commitment
Yeah.
are potential obstacles to this first.
Yeah, then one
Mini goal.
commitment. Yeah, that are still like what I say I will do, I don't do.
Okay.
That's the thing.
Uh-huh.
Yeah.
And so let's now talk about resources. What resources you have, what resources you can acquire, yeah? What skills or resources, however you want to label that, things that will help you in overcoming those obstacles. Because if there are no obstacles, we don't need any resources. Because the resources are only there to overcome obstacles. Yeah? So what resources do you have that would help with any of those two issues that you've just mentioned?
Resources. So
Tell me about commitment.
commitment. So my commitment is that if I mean when I'm there network, I can't say it now.
King! Networking.
Networking, yeah. My commitment is so to actually say who I am, what I do, and to actually create bonds. I mean, create the connections.
Uh-huh.
So and that I'll keep doing that constantly, wherever I am.
Okay.
So my commitment is doing that in any situation.
Okay, and is that down to you?
Yes.
Okay, so that's down to you, and one of the obstacles that you mentioned is your commitment.
Yes, and time, and it might be that.
Let's stay on commitment for a second. I'm interested in commitment because this is coming from you, and you mentioned that as an obstacle.
I get it. Yeah.
So what about commitment to you can you be doing to ensure that you stay committed to that?
Schedule. So Okay, I'm time again. One of the things is be aware who I am, what my purpose is, to look at what I'm in the long term, what I want to be.
Right. So,
Yes, always
so here.
looking at what I want.
Okay.
Yeah.
So not forgetting or losing sight of this.
Exactly. Yeah. Being connected to that.
Uh-huh.
I would say being always connected to what. So when I'm there with people, I know what I want to achieve long
Okay.
term. If I do something like that, I know what that will bring me. So my commitment is
Right.
staying. I mean, always expressing who I am and what I want
Okay.
to be.
So staying connected to the overall goal.
Yeah.
We talk about, in order to make a goal powerful, then there needs to be a goal beyond the goal, an intention behind the intention. Football practice. Yeah? Oh, God, I'm tired. I had a long day at work today. I can't be bothered to go to football practice tonight. Plus, there's a good episode of EastEnders on tonight, etc., etc. If that's where the arena that you're working in, the goal is to go to football practice, to play football, right? That's the goal. And the obstacle is commitment. Can I be bothered to, etc., etc. If you then change that to, at the end of this month, we have the FA Cup, or your version of the FA Cup, whatever it is. So the goal behind going to football training tonight is not just for the sake of going to football training tonight, right? It's to get to the FA Cup and play in the FA Cup. So there is a goal beyond the goal. If you do not go to football training tonight, there is a chance that you won't get picked for the team that plays in the final, for example. Are you with me? There's a goal beyond the goal. So sometimes when the commitment to this goal is waning, the thing that pulls you through is the overall commitment to that. And this is an integral part of that. You don't get that without this. So there's a goal beyond the goal, yeah? So again, commitment, time. Tell me about time.
Time. So time is actually scheduling.
Uh-huh.
So have a schedule, diary, put this on up. Okay. For example, I meet people there and there, putting this down and be committed to actually do that.
Yeah.
And time. What else? Taking the time when I'm with them.
Okay.
Whoever is there, yeah, to talk about it.
Yeah. So let's break those two things down. You've got the time when you're with somebody in the networking session. You've also got the time and diarising to be networking in that scenario. So how are you going to do that? How are you going to make the time for that?
So see where I'm free. So I'm not working. For example, I'm after 6, 7 p.m. I can do that. So specifically in those particular time, I can schedule some days.
Yeah.
For example, 3 days in a week, I can do that.
Yeah.
So Saturdays, for example, too. So I can be there.
So
doing that. Yeah.
okay, so you can do that.
Yeah.
Okay. What about the time spent with individuals? What does that mean to you?
So not. Okay. So. Okay, so what exactly, I can say what can happen. So if I'm there like committed to just to say, I mean, to promote myself, I would say, like, you know, simple words or whatever. I'll not talk about something else, like be diverted and just like, okay, let's grab a beer or whatever.
Okay.
I just been in that context.
Okay, good. So there's a commitment there too.
Yeah.
Okay, fine. So let's move away from network, the mastermind group. Let's talk in fairly sort of lighter terms just to move through the process, get the idea of this. Mastermind group, do you foresee any potential obstacles there?
Yeah. Okay.
And what would they be?
So finding people
Finding people.
that are skillful,
That are
already,
skillful.
that have experience in other areas.
Okay.
Yeah.
Is there a link between these two?
Yes.
Okay.
Of course, if I'm not doing this, then probably there won't be people to find.
Sure.
Yeah, and a place to be, where like a room or something.
Can this help lead to that?
Yes.
Okay. Any other potential obstacles there? We'll keep it light because you'll work on this again in a moment. But
That's it for now.
Okay.
And staying committed too. That's yeah.
So there's a commitment to that too. In terms of resources, commitment, you mentioned time there as well. Is that a similar thing?
Yeah.
So these two are fairly similar. Okay, moving on to personal development. What potential obstacles are there?
Me not trusting myself. So, I mean,
That's interesting.
yeah. So, potential obstacle, I mean, as a so, as I said, trusting myself that I can develop myself
Hmm.
despite of those limiting beliefs. How to say? I mean, it just
To overcome those limiting beliefs.
yeah. Anyway, yeah, and I mean, there is more here. It's like learning new skills together. People do whatever. There's just being exposed, being in action. So not
Okay.
being in action, really hesitating.
Okay.
One of the things.
So hesitation is a
Yeah.
potential obstacle.
Yeah.
Any other potential obstacles there?
Not willing to risk.
Not
Yeah.
not taking a risk,
Yeah.
not pushing yourself to take that risk. Okay, potential obstacle. Okay, so there may be some others, but let's just flip that onto resources. What resources do you have or can you acquire to enable that to happen?
What resources? So in this situation, I mean, what resources? So there's the resource.
So those are a couple of resources. If I now I'm just deliberately going to I'm deliberately going to lead here
Okay. Yeah.
for a second. Just saying, for example, would it be fair to say that time and money are resources involved in personal development?
Yeah.
Would it be fair to say that, for example, what you're doing right now is an investment in that in terms of time, money, and personal development?
Yeah.
So this is something you're doing right now. And you mentioned earlier when we were talking about upskilling yourself, seeing other people who do this, etc., etc. Again, personal development and maybe doing other courses. I'm deliberately leading here at the moment, I know, just to get us through this process. But these are something with a coach you could, if you had the time, you would be looking to bring out. So these are things that you are doing in terms of resources. You're bringing money, you're taking the time, and in the process of that, you are upskilling yourself. If you were doing other courses that enabled you to maintain state, manage state, these are some of the other things that you talked about earlier. So this is all in the arena of personal development.
Yeah.
Okay. We'll move on just because this is at the demo bit, and
Yeah.
whoever you're working with, Lisa, you'll be exploring this again with Lisa.
That again.
What about the next bit?
So, yeah, again, taking time, commitment.
So there are common themes in terms of obstacles,
Yeah.
which are interesting for the coach to note: time and commitment. I'm just going to take a step out of the process we're in here for a second. One of the things that you would do as a coach potentially is explore if this is important, as it clearly is to you, to achieve this. Like everything in life, we get out what we put in. Yeah. So therefore, how many times do you say, I'm stepping outside of the process for a second, oh, I don't have enough time to do that. I won't have time to do that. And don't do things because of that. It's a big one, isn't it? Yeah? If you were really committed to it, if your life depended on it, for example, or something of heavy weight depended on it, how then would you reshuffle your life to make the pieces fit so that you are achieving what you want to achieve? And a lot of this comes down to perception, commitment, etc. So this is something, when the time thing comes up a lot, is something worth looking at or investigating or exploring. Yeah? Does that make sense? Yeah? And again, sometimes people just simply cannot see how they can shift their life. And sometimes they can make a major change in their life where things which are not important to them, which are not actually moving them on, that they suddenly drop, because those things are things that take up a massive percentage of the time allowable and actually don't bring anything to the person's life. So the way that you perceive something and look at something, you may decide, I can chuck or cut off this entire thing that I'm doing, which is taking up maybe 20% of my week is taken up with this. But what does this bring to my life? I'm not saying that's the case. I'm saying that certainly could be the case. And a person can free themselves by looking at it from a different perspective and bringing in the perspective of time and what the goal is. Again, just thoughts that would be going through a coach's mind when time keeps coming up and so on. Okay? So back into the process. So setting up the business side.
Yeah. So yeah, the commitment just to know what exactly. So to gather information, how to do things, set up the things, that website and so on. Just,
Fantastic.
Yeah. So.
That's great. So not having the knowledge at the moment, how do you set up a business? What about things like insurance? What about premises? What about all these kinds of things that if you haven't done it before, these are obstacles, are they not? I don't know the first thing to do. So acquiring the knowledge in terms of the resources, upskilling, acquiring the knowledge to be able to do that, or outsourcing that, get somebody to do your website, etc., 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 etc. Yeah. Okay, and I'm rushing you through the process, I realise, but
great.
Lisa will take great care of you momentarily. Unconscious competency with language. What are the obstacles potentially to that, do you see? If there are any.
Yeah, like I said, here, it's like, because this is also connected to this, so it's like trusting myself. So not trusting that I can do it.
That's great.
So actually, in the process of getting there, just learning and actually being that.
Fantastic. That's a really good point. How these things, there should be a connection, of course, to all of these things, if they're all moving towards the same direction. And the mere process of doing these things will be informing this. Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. And we'll move to the end there. And how's that being there? We know that that's good. We've been there before.
Yeah.
Let's take a walk through this journey. So if you now go to the beginning, what I'm going to ask you to do in a moment is I'm going to ask you to step onto each one of these. And I want you to go inside yourself again and fully associate to that, to you overcoming, seeing those obstacles, overcoming those obstacles and being there, doing it. And take your time as long as you need to really associate to that, see that process, feel that, experience that, and be there. And see how that feels. And does it feel right?
Yeah.
Yeah? It feels right and it feels in the right place.
Feels, yeah. I feel confident here
Good.
doing this. Yeah.
Fantastic. And then to the next. Same thing.
Yeah, it's same thing.
Yeah? Feels good? Feels right?
Yeah.
And feels in the right order? It's happening?
Yeah.
Great. And then again, when you're ready, into the personal development.
It's effort.
You feel that, yeah?
Yeah.
Okay, that's interesting. You get a feeling, a sense, a kinesthetic thing of what's involved here, stepping on it.
Yeah, I need effort here. Like pushing through whatever is there. Yeah.
Okay, there will be learnings that you get from yourself when you do this exercise. Okay, if you'd like to progress to the next. I am rushing him through. I wouldn't be doing this so quickly.
So that's just asking. That's nothing special.
Okay.
Yeah.
Nothing special and and important?
And important. Yes.
Okay.
I mean, nothing special in the sense that there is like, oh, what now? I mean, because there's people around, and I know I can ask.
So it's easy.
Yeah, it's easy.
Fantastic.
Feels light here.
Excellent. Good. Very good.
Yeah, that's just flow.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
It's all connected to all of these things,
Yeah.
absolutely. And then finally,
like a confident,
Yeah?
just doing.
It feels right?
Mm.
Feels absolutely right? Fantastic. Excellent, fantastic. When you're ready, if you'd like to take a step off to me. Fantastic, thank you. What I'd like you to do now is come back down to the beginning. And I'd like you to just take another look at that, just glance over it, and just whatever thoughts come into your head, come into your head. Yeah?
Yeah, like something like, okay, I need to set my how to charge and everything. Like those specific things come to my mind.
Yeah.
Like and
So you get something from that just by looking at that,
Yeah.
right? Okay. What I'm going to ask you is, what can you commit to today, and set an action point about doing, that will be part of this process, and what is something you could absolutely commit to today? What's the first thing that you could do
today,
tomorrow, tomorrow, that you could commit to?
being really present,
Mhm.
listen for what's here,
Mhm.
learning like fully, and taking it like how to say it's just. Really having a great experience here and now today.
Right.
In this process, I mean, as you asked me for today.
Sure, absolutely.
Yeah, yeah.
Fantastic
Yeah.
response, fantastic attitude. What is something that you could do today, and by today I mean today, tomorrow, outside of this room,
Outside of this room.
as part of this journey, something that you can commit to and actually take a physical action into doing one thing?
Yes. So looking out. I mean, yeah, just going out. For example, there is those meetup groups that I can go see
Right.
what's there, like connect with
Fantastic.
them. What else is there?
Okay, that's good.
Huh?
Now let's make that specific.
Specific.
How can you turn that into a specific action point?
Specific. Okay.
You've
so-
said generally, I could look for
Okay. Yeah. So
what
Next.
will you do?
So next weekend,
Mm-hmm.
I mean, I'm gonna search on the internet or
So
something.
I'm going to search on the internet. Okay.
So by the next week, end of the next week, I'll probably attend one or two groups. I mean, whatever. Just knowing like there's people around that is on my path to meet
Sure.
them and like to connect in
Yeah.
that kind of level that I can, how to say, bring value to them and they can bring my value to me.
Okay.
So-
You will probably, or you will?
Okay, I said it probably will, yeah. So I will.
You will. Okay. So you'll look on the internet. You'll find a group or somewhere that you can network,
Yeah.
and you'll make a commitment to
Yes.
actually go to that.
And what else?
That's pretty good.
And I'll find someone to work. I mean, somebody that I can work being as a coach, so we can exchange as
Great.
like an energy level, like whatever is there. Yeah.
Fantastic.
Yeah.
So those are two things that you're committing
Yeah.
to, that you will actually commit to.
Yeah.
Yeah.
By the end of the next week.
Yeah. Good. I would suggest that when you sit down, you write that down,
Mhm.
take a look at it, yeah,
All right.
and then you do something with your diary.
Okay.
I mean, entirely whatever it
I
is
see,
for
yeah,
you,
yeah.
you make a commitment for you that you can actually be. It's tangible. Yeah.
Mhm. Okay.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed.
Thank you.
Thank you, Anthony, for that. Take that goal with you. So that's the process now of taking it from here and putting it down on a piece of paper, putting it down on the floor, and going through that process, associating to each of those obstacles, resources. When you've got all that, then walk yourself, and first of all, make sure that it looks right, it feels right, it's in the right order, that the chunk sizes are reasonable. And this is, James, you were talking before about, if you're talking about becoming King of England or whatever it may be, there's some limitations on that, but if you're talking about something huge, I would suggest that for this, I mean, you're in the middle of a goal, when you do it the other way, maybe you might want to change that goal quickly because it doesn't take long to do your steps, yeah? to make it something maybe a year away, something 2 years away, probably max, that something which is more tangible in terms of being able to lay out. Does that make sense? Any questions on the process? Any questions on the process itself? So here are the steps. So you lay out the steps of your goal on the floor. You review the steps from a meta position. Yeah? What obstacles or obstructions or difficulties are there? First of all, are they in the right order, etc., etc.? What obstructions or difficulties are there, step by step? What resources will you need? Again, without any obstructions or obstacles, you won't really need resources. There will be obstructions, usually. Then, having done that, and been through that process, then walk the timeline. Step in and really associate and feel each of those steps.
With the resources.
So you've talked about the resources, and you've also talked about the resources to overcome those.
Yeah.
Those have gone into your unconscious already. Yeah. When you step on there, what you're doing is that all of that is coming into play. You'll see yourself. You'll see the obstacles. You'll see yourself overcoming them. You'll put yourself into whatever that step is, and then you'll just feel how you're feeling. Feel how it feels. Does it feel right? Because if it doesn't, there's some more work to do. Yeah? And this is all about experience. This is all about experiencing what happens when you're doing this. So having walked through the timeline, how does each step feel? Sort of, I'll put here, it's a mental and physical rehearsal. Mental and physical rehearsal. Yeah? And then finally, what will you commit to? Something that you can do today, tomorrow, something tangible that you can do this week that is a step that takes you towards that goal. Does that make sense? Yeah? Lisa? Big
Yeah.
frown.
Well, not to frown, it's just that I'm thinking in Anthony's place, place, one of his issues that kept coming up was time and
Sure.
commitment. So my thought is to go back with him now. So you've asked him to make some action plans.
Sure.
But I'm thinking he's probably going to have to give something up. So would that be sort of a next step with him is, what would you be willing to,
Yeah.
give up or...
Sure. What I'd like us to do is keep away from what that reveals at the moment, because those are big things to work on. And we won't have time to do that now. But we'll discuss that later.
Okay.
Let's just stay in the steps and mechanics of this process. It's going to throw those things up.
Yeah.
And we will talk about dealing with those.
And
Cut that
would
free.
be another coaching session.
Yeah, or it could be in the same one. It could be, depending where we are. But for now, for the process of what we're about to do, cut that free from your mind. Yeah? Cut that free from your mind.
So with him, then, what else would I do if that's...
No, this is what you will be doing,
Yeah.
but he is highlighting obstacles.
Yeah.
And then you're getting those obstacles, and then you, as a coach, can help him, guide him to overcome those obstacles. Yeah, that's where the process and part of what the process is revealing. For the process of this exercise, I'd like you to cut that free. I don't want you to be thinking, what am I going to be doing? Otherwise, you're somewhere else.
We've not got the time.
And also, you're somewhere else. You're not getting what this process is about.
Oh, I see.
Yeah? Because it's all holistic. Everything is connected, remember.
Sure.
But we can't go off on tangents. And of course, it's important to deal with that. But for the purpose of this demonstration and the purpose of going through and getting the sense of what this process is all about, that's what's important.
And the outcome is some sort of commitment.
The outcome will be some sort of commitment and also dealing with the time issue. And then you'll go into something else for that. So please don't concern yourself. Does that make sense? Don't concern yourself with that now. What's important is that you're able to guide somebody through this process. Recognizing these things will come up, and of course you'll deal with those, but not right now. Yeah? Any questions on that? Good, let's go off and do it.